Hi everybody. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about loops. You guys have already been working with for loops, or at least many of you have, and I want to talk about a different sort of loop, the while loop. And then I also briefly want to talk about different ways of formatting your data. So I'm going to start by reintroducing the for loop just so that we can use it as a point of comparison, and then we'll talk about while. So as I mentioned before, for loops are kind of like the repeat block in Scratch. They're good for doing executing code a certain number of times. And you can specify that number of times, or you can use a variable and have the user specify. Let's start out by saying, by creating a really simple for loop, and then we'll run it, and then change it a little bit, and then we'll move on to while loops. So in this particular scenario, what I want to do is I want to say, like, let's say I get $400 a week in salary, and I put all of it into a bank account. How much money in savings will I have each week that I get paid? So what I do here is I set my first variable, which is weeks, so the number of weeks that I want to run this, and I'll say the integer, I'll create an integer and make it based on input, and I'll ask the question, enter the number of weeks. And that will tell the user, okay, enter your number of weeks. And we'll do the same thing for salary. How much do you get paid? Enter your salary in dollars. And then I need to say that right now I'm going to start with $0 in the bank. That could, of course, be different. I could also ask the user how much money they have in the bank, but for our purposes, I'm just going to say it's 0. Then I'm going to say for x in range and week. What this is saying is for x in range basically will run this code until it's equal to the week variable. Now, I could also just as easily say for x in range 4, and then it would run 4 times. But actually, why don't we start with that, and then I'll change it just to show you what I mean. So for x in range 4, bank equals bank plus salary. Now, why do I do bank equals bank plus salary? Well, because I want this bank variable to increase each time this code is run. If I just did bank equals salary, then it would run 4 times, but it would always be equal to whatever somebody typed in for salary. So bank equals bank plus salary, it goes, okay, if bank equals 0, then it's 0 plus whatever you type in, say 400. Then the next time it runs through the loop, it says, okay, bank is 400 plus 400 equals 800, right? And then I want to print out bank. So what's going to happen is it's going to run this code 4 times, it's going to add this together, and it's going to print how much you'll have in your account each week. So let's try running this code. So the number of weeks is 4. Now remember, this is going to, whatever I type in here is going to be ignored because I hard-coded the number of weeks. So I could type 5 and it would still only do 4. My salary in dollars, I'll say 400. And you see 400, 800, 1200, 1600. Let's just zoom in on that a little bit. So once again, you see you've got, it goes to here and it prints, and then it goes back to here and does it again, and then prints it again 4 times. Now, if I change this to week, what's going to happen is it's going to run however many times I tell it to run, which is really useful, right? So I want it to run 10 times, and I want my salary to be 500. So now, there you have the output there. And I could do some stuff to dress it up, so it says like week 1, week 2, week 3, by using, print, and then say week number, and then week. So there you go. That is what a for is good for. It's going to run a set number of times, either specified by you or the user, and then it's going to quit. Now, how does this differ from a while? Well, whiles can run basically forever. What you can do is you can set them up to run until a certain condition is met, like true or false. Let me give you an example. I'm going to set x to 0, and then I'm going to keep track of the number of times I run through the loop, and then say while x is equal to 0, print, and I'll create a little space here, and then print line attempt. So in other words, how many times have I done this? Oops. I'll keep doing this until you tell me not to. And then print. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say attempt equals attempt plus 1. That way I know after it's gone through this loop, the first loop will be attempt number 1, the second loop will be attempt plus 2, and so on and so forth. And then I'm going to say finished equals input. Would you like to stop now? Yes or no. Oops, and I misspelled would. Thank you, Notepad++. And then I will say, let's do an if. If finished equals y, x equals 1. Else, print print goodbye. Let's see how this works. I think I've got my logic slightly off here. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I thought. So let's go back here and say x equals 1, and then print. Sorry guys, doing this on the fly is a little tricky, but what I want you to see here is that if I keep saying no, it says line 1, I'll keep doing this until you tell me not to. If I say no and continue to say no forever, it's going to keep on going up and up and up. And then when I say yes, it says goodbye and it stops. So how does this code work? Well, it runs through this while, and I just say while x equals 0, and it prints this line that says I'll keep doing this until you tell me not to, and then it asks me if I want to do it. And if I say yes, then it changes x equals 1, and it prints goodbye, and then it goes to the top of the loop, and it says while x equals 0, do this stuff. But when x doesn't equal 0 anymore, it stops. So as soon as I say y, x equals 1, and then the program's over. But if x is not equal, if x still equals 0, which would happen if I hit n, then it prints a little space line, and then it goes back here and it prints another one of these. So it can go over and over and over again. What's that useful for? Well, let's say in your calendar programs, you wanted to ask someone, would you like to check another month? You could put your whole calendar program in a while loop, and then ask them, would you like to print another month? And if they say yes, then you would go back to the beginning and ask them to type the name of the month. So it's really useful if you don't want your program to exit once it's done executing the first part. I think that there are some programs down the road where that will come in handy. Now, there is another way that while loops can work. You can also do what you do with for loops, which is you can run it a finite number of times. So let's try saying attempts equals 0, print that while attempts is less than 12. So you're saying, so long as attempts are less than 12, then you should do this thing, which is print leave, oh, let's also say attempts equals attempts plus 1, and then print leave, try this, attempts times, and then else print that was 12 attempts. Time to go. So what this is going to do is it's going to run through this loop until attempts equals 12, basically. And then it's going to print at the end, you've got this else here that basically says when attempts no longer equals 12, print this message. And then we'll save it and run it. Oops. Forgot to indent. So now you can see here we've tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and after 12 attempts. So you can do this stuff in a for loop, in a while loop if you want. It just depends on, I guess, in part your preference. The nice thing about a for loop is you don't have to do this increment. You just say, I want it to run X amount of times. But for some things, like I wanted to show that how many times I've gone through this loop. So in that case, it kind of makes, since you're already doing this anyway, you can just throw the while in there and it'll work just fine. So I'm going to save the formatting stuff for a later class, I think. In the meantime, I'm going to stop here. Thanks a lot.